Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Sailesh Ramakrishnan. Sailesh, welcome on the show.
Hey Nathan, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here, and it's a pleasure. Let's start with who is Sailesh?
I am currently the managing partner of a fund called Rocketship here in Silicon Valley. We are based here in Los Altos. We are about 10 years old. We started the fund back in 2014. And I'm one of the managing partners and one of the founders. I named the fund Rocketship because I've been passionate about things that go to space for a long time. About one whole career ago, I was a computer scientist working at NASA, where I worked on AI for the Mars rover project back in the 2000s. And it was a tremendously fun experience. But then I found something that I was even more passionate about. And that happened to be just outside the door from NASA, which is the rest of Silicon Valley, which is all about startups. Back in 2005, I joined a very exciting startup. It was an AI company that was going to take on Google at that time. And so many of our ideas that we came up with in that company were copied by Google in some sense. We believe we were a little bit ahead of the time, which was good to see. In 2011, that company Kosmix was acquired by Walmart. So we went to work for the world's largest retailer, where we created this new division within Walmart called Walmart Labs. And that was a tremendously exciting experience to work on things that are at that large a scale. But I had, as I said, been bitten a little bit by the stuff. And so I wanted to be a founder as well. Decided to leave Walmart, join another colleague, and we started a company where we created a marketing platform for small and medium-sized businesses. And in 2014, we were acquired by Square, the cash register company. So that's been my journey from being a computer scientist to being a startup guy and an entrepreneur to now starting a VC fund. And Rocketship, in one sentence, is a global investor, early stage in startups, where we actually use AI and machine learning to find the best companies to invest in. So our algorithms tell us on a daily basis which companies we should go out and seek. And we do talk to them all over the world and make investments. So as of today, we have investments in 14 different countries and over 20 different sectors. So that, in a nutshell, is the story, at least from a work career perspective, of who I am. A couple of just personal points of note. I am from India, as you would have obviously already guessed. I went to IIT Madras back in India, and I am from Madras, was born and brought up. So very much from the South as well. So that's a little bit about personal stuff.
Such a fascinating, such an amazing journey. And not that that defines someone, but the brands, the logos that you've been able to not just work with, but define the future for them. Such a fascinating career. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Which
you.
brings me to my next question. You could have done anything. You're a scientist, you are a nerd in a good way, you live in Silicon Valley, you are from the prestigious IITs. Why Rocketship?
So actually, it was an interesting combination of things. Like I said, the thing that I got most excited by was this ability of going from zero to one, which
Mhm.
is the thing that defines a startup, right? So I knew I always liked starting things. And one way of starting something new is to start this fund, but also be a part of other people's zero to one journeys as well. And so that's how my perspective to Rocketship came about, is that I wanted to constantly be both building something, which is our algorithms to find these companies, but at the same time also be talking to other entrepreneurs who are going through that same zero to one journey and partly vicariously live their experiences as well. And it also gives both them and us a lot of joy in the sense that we have done this before ourselves, and doing this again and again, while has its significant challenges, as everybody knows, is also personally very rewarding to see that when nothing existed, now something has been created, something that adds and delivers value. So that's how we ended up starting Rocketship. The third part of it, which maybe is not as emphasized, but is also the thing of trying to do something brand new. We felt that it hadn't been done before. And as a scientist, that's almost one of the first things you look for, right? Like, why hasn't this been done? And in fact, when we started this and talked to people about what we were planning to do, almost everybody said, but why hasn't this been done before? We felt happy that we were breaking new ground, if you will.
It's something that is in your DNA, I would imagine, as a scientist. So great
Yes.
to see many different parts and aspects of you come together in a way. And you stole my word as you were saying that. I was thinking about, oh, you get to live vicariously through so many different people that are creating and building new things, bringing innovation to life. You get to be a part of it, but it's having your neighbor who has children and you get all the benefits, but not any of the pain.
I wish it were the case that we don't have any other pain, but as good investors as well as mentors to many of our startups, we do share their pain as well. The difference, though, I think with the point you're making is very valid. The difference, though, is that we don't have to live it every day. As an entrepreneur, as a founder, which I was, you live your startup. Whereas I live many different startup journeys on different days and different times. So it is a much lesser burden. I would nowhere compare it to the day-to-day, challenges that most founders face. But at the same time, we do share both in the highs and the lows.
True. And also the experiences and the learnings that you collectively gather across the portfolio that you're able to bring to them to improve the chances of success, the probabilities. And that's what the startup journey is all about. That's why someone would look to partner with someone like Rocketship that has that credibility, that has that track record. So, very valid points. So, Sailesh, as you've gone through this journey, as you have looked at many levels of success, what I'm curious to know is what is the one big challenge you're facing right now?
Oh, that's almost the standard answer you're going to hear a VC give you, which is that the world from our perspective is changing so rapidly.
True.
And it is very hard for us to keep up with so many things that are happening, right? Almost every VC, if they're worth their salt, are operating on the cutting edge. And we, thanks to our algorithmic perspective, are literally, truly on the cutting edge and have the opportunity to see what's going on. It's very hard to keep up. So many things are happening, things in every sector. Even things that people haven't been paying too much attention to are completely being revolutionized. An example, a simple example, I'm vegetarian, I'm vegan.
Mhm.
And most people have already dismissed this whole artificial protein movement as, oh, Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger, they've done this thing and that's all over now. But that's actually, the least of it. There's so much innovation now happening in the last 5 years that you're going to see a revolution in how food is made, how food is consumed, how food is going to taste and be cooked. And I wouldn't have known anything about this if I was just a regular person, because my perspective would have been exactly the same thing as a grocery store, right? You go see these things, and if they're not there anymore, then you're like, maybe that was a fad and that's gone. But now techniques that come from like physics and chemistry, new math that is being invented to understand the elasticity of those proteins, all of these things are contributing to this tremendous journey in just this one tiny sliver of a segment. That's the world I live in. On any given day, the kinds and the variety of companies I'm speaking with just blows my mind about how much innovation is going on a daily basis. And all I can say is it is an enormous challenge, but it's also a fun challenge to have. Sometimes it makes me feel like why I shouldn't be doing some of those things myself. But for the most part, it makes me feel like what a time to be living in, right? What an exciting time to be living in, that on a daily basis, I get to see and hear and sometimes taste some of these massive innovations that are happening.
That's so true. It is beyond a doubt the fascinating time to be around and be in the midst of many of these innovations as they're coming to fruition. You almost get to define the edge, not just live at it. So that's really exciting. Now, flip side of challenges are opportunities. And amongst the many that you come across on a daily basis, what's the one that you're most excited about?
It's not one, it's going to be two, but I've chosen those two very carefully. One is very closely related to my initial love, which is anything and everything that goes to space.
Mhm.
And very similar to how pace of innovation got accelerated when the internet was invented, to the pace of innovation got even more exponentially grown through when mobile phones were created. Now you're seeing the level of innovation and hence consequently the rate of pace of change and growth being applied to things that go to space. From materials to rockets to software to the capabilities of these devices, it is just fantastic. It's truly, literally science fiction is being invented right now today. And what's so exciting about it in particular is that before it was thought of as things that only nation states could afford because these were large, hundreds of billions of dollars. You can see small startups are creating things and have the ambition saying, I can build this and put this into space, in a matter of a few months to a year. That capability is the biggest opportunities. And I think it's an enormous opportunity. Of course, AI, but it's AI from my perspective, which is I've been working in AI and machine learning now for over 35 years. So it's not just this current wave of AI excitement is not the only wave of AI excitement that I've had to live through. And so I've seen this 4 or 5 times. But the interesting thing about each of those times is that materially, for those of us who are in the field or at least observing the field, life and innovation has gotten significantly better. Every cycle we have been able to accomplish what nobody thought we could in a previous cycle. Now, of course, for the folks from the outside, they think of us as always overselling the promise of AI. And I think that's also going to be unfortunately true of this cycle. This is not the end either. But this is perhaps a more significant leap forward than what we have seen in the past. And that's because of two big things. One is the enormous amount of capital that is available to support this wave. Previously, AI efforts were very much, once again, in the realm of universities and a few companies. Today, almost every company needs to have something to do with AI. And so I think that's been pretty big. So the amount of capital is being enormous. The second is the technology has really caught the common person's excitement or interest. So anybody and everybody is already thinking about, oh, hey, if I had this capability, what would I do? So those are the two biggest opportunities we see, and the number of companies on a daily basis that you hear about.
It is, again, truly an amazing time to be around. Now, as we look forward, I want to pause, reflect, and have you take us back in time and share two moments. One, where things did not work out as you had expected, and there was maybe failure, lessons that came out of it. And another one where things exceeded your expectations and became a success beyond what you had imagined.
I will start with the second first,
Yep.
because it was a point of inflection that was pretty early in my life. So I graduated from high school in 1989. And unfortunately, that year, the professors at IIT were on strike. So I had written JE to get into IITs, and since they were on strike, they would not
Recognize it.
no, they would not compute the scores to actually give you a rank and hence decide. And so I was at a loss. I wasn't sure what I would want to do. And weeks and months are going by. And if you don't have an answer, all the other engineering schools get filled up. And so if you want to go do something, you have to go make a choice now. So I made a choice to go to the other prestigious university, which was BITS Pilani. So I went to BITS Pilani for a month. But then the decision came, and it was a pretty exciting place, lots of interesting things. And I've been there for a month when the IIT results came out and I learned that I'd got into IIT Madras. So that was a choice point. So to decide, should I stay at BITS or should I go to IIT? And somehow in my gut, I felt like IIT was going to be something. And it was more a personal decision rather than a well thought out, reasoned, and pluses and minus kind of decision. And I have to say that decision, I completely underestimated the impact it has had in my life. And funnily enough, not from necessarily a direct subject matter education perspective, but it showed me a path of opportunities, which I'm very amazed to have gone through. So that, I think, was a very significant decision that I don't think anybody can make those evaluations well-reasoned and get the outcomes that happen. And this is something I'm going to hopefully mention later in our chat today. But several of these things have a compounding effect. They have exponential effects that happen. The second decision, or second inflection point, which I'm a little bit unhappy about, but again, in the long-term view has worked out okay, is I dropped out of my PhD back in 2005.
Mm.
And that was a very angst-filled decision. And almost everybody told me I had made a mistake because I had actually gone through a typical PhD process where all was left was writing up my thesis work and defending it. I had finished all the qualifiers and everything. Somehow in my gut, it felt this was not the thing anymore. This didn't have as much of the excitement and value that I wanted. And so I made that decision, and the rest of my life has moved on, and I've been happy about it. But at the same time, that is a decision I wish I had thought a little bit more about, put in a little bit more work, or taken more seriously. Because I think the rest of my life could have still unfolded in a similar way, but then I would have had a PhD as well. So every now and then people pull me up and say, why don't you go back and finish the degree? But I think I'm too old for that now. So it was not a negative decision, but it did not turn out the way I wanted to because I had invested such a lot of time in it. And to not walk away with that final prize was, I think, a little disappointing.
We live through and learn from experiences. And as you said, that may have instigated you to put a little more or drive some other initiatives in your life to the definition. First off, thank you for sharing that. It's not easy to be open to vulnerabilities and places we've been to that we're not the most proud of. So, really appreciate you sharing that. Now, switching gears, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? That also has changed over the years. So before I was very much an outdoorsy person, I would hike a lot. I did triathlons, I've done bike races and so on.
Nice.
Nowadays, what counts as fun is more like walking the dog outside. But more seriously, it's things like discovering new restaurants, going places, and traveling. Traveling is something that I've come to completely fall in love with. Before, I used to get worried and nervous about leaving your comfort zone and going to new places, but now I literally crave the places I want to go to and try things out and not faced too much by the challenges that come from that. Really want to keep doing for fun is travel. But aside from that, I think there's a lot of other local fun things to do. And the Bay Area has
Mhm.
a richness of things from culture and music and art all the way out to all kinds of physical sports.
So true. Any book or podcast recommendation for our audience?
Um, so there's two books that I still keep coming back to in my head again and again. One whose author I still remember, the other one I've forgotten, but at least I remember the title. The first one is this book on atomic habits. And um, I've always found myself to be overthinking things and not very disciplined. So if I want to make a change, usually things don't happen because I lose interest or attention or whatnot. I'm the prototypical try a million things, but nothing really sticks kind of person. But there were things I wanted to change, but I was finding myself not able to until I read that book. And it clearly showed to me, for example, that there are small things that you can do that really add up to making big changes happen. And so I've really tried to internalize that. There's even a simple anecdote that says, even simple things like most people complain that their kitchen drawers are all a big mess. And the answer was start with just arranging your forks.
Mhm.
Right? That should be a simple thing to do. And then soon that thing starts spilling over, right? The forks look very neat, but then the rest of the stuff doesn't, and then slowly it spreads, right? So anyway, Atomic Habits, highly recommended. The second one is something that I personally felt a lot of challenges in, and I have to deal with on a daily basis. This is Ben Horowitz's book about the thing about making hard decisions.
Yes.
What's hard about making hard decisions?
Mhm.
Because on a daily basis, we make hard decisions. We make hard decisions in our personal lives, in our private lives, in our professional lives. We make decisions about investing in X company versus not investing in Y company and so on. And it, most people think that those are not hard decisions because the answer is be conservative, always say no, right? But no, you have to, when it's time to take that risk and say yes and write millions of dollars away as an investment, that is a very hard decision. And it's a decision that whose result you don't know for 10 years. So I learned a lot about how he uses what his frameworks and what his thinking is and how to prepare yourself and so on. And funnily enough, I don't think Ben Horowitz will necessarily agree, but a lot of what he said actually was also replicate or originally written about in the Gita. The
Mhm.
Bhagavad Gita has a lot about how to make decisions and choices and not necessarily have to live through the ups and downs from the result of those choices.
Mhm.
So those are the two books, but as you can see, the underlying scriptural book that you can learn a lot from is the Gita.
Love that. Thanks for sharing. Both are on my recommendation list, and Atomic Habit, clearly a favorite, especially also for the next generation. On to my favorite part of the show. We call this the one line life lessons. Sailesh, would love for you to share your life lessons with us.
Oh, absolutely. I tried to think about how to frame this in a way that made sense to me. And I think you and I briefly different lessons at different stages in life. When you're very young, all I would urge all of us to do is have fun, play, explore, and learn. So that's my one line. Have fun, play, explore, and learn. For the second decade, when you're mostly a student, this is something that I've learned and even today share with my fellow founders. You are what you spend most of your time on. So choose what you spend your time on wisely, because that is the one resource that we don't have. We cannot walk back time, right? The third is the other thing I mentioned to you, which is the compound interest function is an exponential function, and exponential functions take time but grow rapidly and produce great rewards. So if you think you have found something, that it behooves you to start early. The earlier you start, the more time you have to compound, and that compounding results in enormous, possibility, success, potential. The fourth thing is there's also a lot of emphasis on people's lives about mastering something. There's the 10,000 hours that people have found in terms of research. So I've always felt that while mastering is important, learning a little about a lot of things actually is more rewarding. And the fourth thing I would urge people to do is mastery is important, but learn a lot about many things if possible. And so the final one-liner I have is try to not look back with regret, but with hope to learn and not repeat the mistakes. Because I think regret is one of the most insidious and wasteful emotions. And try not to look back with regret is what I would leave you with.
Thanks for the wisdom. And I love how you broke it down, because at different stages in our lives, we are feeding off of and getting inspired by different aspirations, challenges, and opportunities. So, Sailesh, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your life lessons, and your story. We really appreciate it. Congratulations again on all of your successes, and good wishes for many more that is yet to come. We really appreciate it and would love to bring you back on for more life lessons and more success stories.
Thank you so much, Nitin. It was my pleasure to share my experiences, and I hope your audience, as well as yourself, enjoy being part of this journey. And I look forward to hearing from other folks on your podcast as well.